Hello and welcome to Whole and Healthy Cooking with Chef Val. I am Chef Valerie Wilson and I have a big announcement. Cookbook number 8 is available hot off the presses. It's called Amazing Asparagus. The whole cookbook has recipes featuring one of my all-time favorite vegetables, asparagus. And so today I am going to make one of those recipes for you, and you can follow along. You can make it with me, or you can watch the video and make the recipe later. It is 2 lentil asparagus soup featuring, what is it featuring? Thyme, parsley, uh, asparagus, obviously, and both green lentils and red lentils. So the new Amazing Asparagus Cookbook is available on my website, macroval.com. In fact, it's so hot off the presses right now, I don't even have a copy to show you. I'm making this recipe video before the actual book, gets delivered to my house. But when I release this video, you will be able to get the new cookbook. But for now, let's get cooking. So we're making a soup. We're going to feature some green and red lentils. So let's go over to the stove. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to saute the onion for the soup. Now, the recipe that's in the cookbook actually calls for a leek. I could not get an organic leek this week, which is unfortunate, but I can always get my organic onions. So I'm going to do a little substitution for this recipe here, but you could use a leek or you could use 1 large onion, and I'm using 1 large onion. So we're going to start the soup by sauteing the onion. This is like a gourmet fancy way of making the soup. So get yourself a nice big soup pot. We're going to put it on the stove here, and we're going to saute it in some organic olive oil and a pinch of sea salt. So I have it on a medium heat. I'm going to take my organic olive oil and I'm going to go around once. I always say just use a little bit. That is less than a teaspoon for a whole pot of soup. Here is my beautiful diced onion. That's going to go in there. And then we're going to season it with just a pinch of sea salt. Brings out the flavor of the onions, actually makes the onions more flavorful when you just put a pinch of sea salt in there and let it saute. Now, if for some reason you don't want to use the oil, you could do a water saute, or you could totally skip the saute onion part of this soup recipe. You can just go right to the water, bring the water up to a boil and start adding the lentils and things like that. So it's actually called like a gourmet way of making the soup. When you start by sauteing the vegetables, the natural juices of the vegetables start to come out, and it just makes the soup a little more flavorful, a little more enhanced. And of course, good quality organic olive oil is good quality fat. And fat just makes your food taste better sometimes, but we don't want a lot of fat. Just a little bit, like I said, less than a teaspoon of olive oil for the whole pot of soup. And so this soup is going to feature both green and red lentils. People ask me what's the difference between the green and the red lentils. Well, let's see, these are green and these are red. They're both legumes. They're both in the legume family. And the green lentils, when you make a soup, will retain their shape. The red lentils, when you make a soup, will fall apart, dissipate, and dissolve, and they just make a thick, creamy soup for you. So by putting the two together, we have the thick creaminess and we have a little bit of texture with the green lentils. Which one do I personally like better? It depends on what recipe I'm doing. Like if I'm doing like a lentil loaf, obviously I'm going to use the green lentils because I want a little more body, a little more texture for it to hold together. If I'm making a soup, I adore red lentil soup because again, it makes this beautiful thick soup. So I love that. Lentils, this is where you're going to find your protein, right? Legume family beans. And protein is very important because it feeds and nurtures your heart. You've got to have protein for your muscles, and your biggest muscle in your body is your heart. Now, in the new amazing asparagus cookbook, the introduction of the cookbook, I go into the health benefits of asparagus, the history of asparagus, but I also go into general information about healthy whole foods cooking, such as the importance of protein, fat, and complex carbohydrates in your diet. That's all in the introduction of the cookbook also. And so the onions are going to hang out and get soft in there. And as they're hanging out and sauteing, we after that happens, I'm going to add the water, and then I'm going to bring it up to a boil, and I'm going to add the vegetables and the lentils and all of that. So I have it on a medium heat. I'm just letting the onions hang out there. Now, the onions are the only vegetable we're going to saute in this particular soup recipe. I do have some other soup recipes that you saute the vegetables for a little bit longer. All right. So that's going to hang out there. And I will just go on a quick little break here while the onions saute. It's just going to take a couple minutes. So I'll be right back. Okay, the onions are soft. They've just been sauteing just for a few minutes. And now we add 8 cups of water. And we're going to turn the heat up to a higher temperature and bring this to a boil. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this 4-inch piece of kombu into the soup pot. This is a sea vegetable. It's dried right now. Put it right into the liquid. And I'm putting it into the liquid to reconstitute it so that it gets soft. And then once it gets soft, I'm going to cut it up and into much smaller pieces and put it back in there. So why am I putting kombu in my lentil soup? I get asked all the time in my cooking classes. They say, well, where can I buy that? Where can I buy that? Okay, so you're going to find kombu at a health food store. You can find kombu at Oriental stores, but I have to give you a word of caution. Oriental stores have a lot of unique, interesting things, and sometimes they have like flavored kombu, or I've even seen like kombu that had like added salt on it when it has natural occurring sea salt because it's a plant that grows in the ocean. So anyways, just a word of caution. If you go looking for it at an Oriental store, I would advise you get it from a health food store or, look up on the internet. But so it comes in a bag and it's dry, like I just showed you. Okay. So it's an actual plant that grows in the ocean. A lot of people call them seaweed. I like to call them sea vegetables. In fact, I have a whole cookbook of sea vegetable recipes if you are interested in more sea vegetable recipes. And again, that's on my website, macroval.com. Kombu. So kombu is the sea vegetable that helps break down the protein in the beans, helps strengthen your intestinal tract. Thus, when you eat beans, it helps to eliminate the gas. Now, lentils are a much smaller bean than, say, a kidney bean or something like that. So many people don't have the gas problem with the smaller beans as they do the larger beans, but everybody's different. So if you put the piece of kombu in there, it really helps to digest the beans and helps to eliminate gas. But you might as well put the sea vegetable in your soup anyways, because sea vegetables are the most nutrient dense food on the planet. That's right. An actual plant that grows in the ocean. All of our ancestors have been eating sea vegetables for a very, very, very long time because they knew that they could harvest the plant from the ocean, and then once it dried, it was non-perishable and would last forever. So they could put it in their carrying pack and they could, travel long distance, and they would always have a snack or a food or a flavoring, because it does add a little bit of a salty flavor to it, very slight, not much, but and it's ridiculously high in iron, calcium, contains a significant amount of protein. It helps cleanse the body of toxins. It's medicinal, anti-inflammatory properties, antiviral properties. It's very medicinal for you. It's wonderful. So again, also too, if you ever accidentally cut yourself, if you could reconstitute the sea vegetable and make it pliable, you could apply it and it would help clean the cut and disinfect the cut. So again, the plant from the ocean, has been used for a long, long time. We kind of forgot about it, but we need to start using it a lot more. So because it's so nutrient dense and it's so wonderful, and it's going to help aid in digestion, we're going to put it in the lentil soup. And whenever I make a soup that has a bean in it, I put kombu in it, just so you know. The new Amazing Asparagus Cookbook has 2 miso soup recipes in it. One of them features the whole grain quinoa, and one of them features the whole grain brown rice. And both of those miso soups feature the sea vegetable wakame, which is the signature sea vegetable that you put in miso soup. So a little bit better, little different than kombu, but yet still nutrient dense sea vegetable. All right, so we take the kombu out. Look at this. See how it's pliable and flexible? See how that is? So now we can cut it. Let's set it over here for a minute. But now the water, I didn't want to put the lentils in there before I removed the kombu because I didn't want the lentils to stick to the kombu and everything. So it was very easy to put the kombu in there just for, a minute and then take it out. Now I can put the lentils, red lentils, green lentils. And then we're going to wait for this to come up to a boil. And then I'm going to let this simmer for 10 minutes before I start adding the rest of the next vegetables like the carrots and all the other vegetables. But for right now, let's cut up this piece of kombu. Now, the trick with sea vegetables is cut them up into very small pieces and put them back into the soup, and then nobody will know that it's in there. You're getting all the health benefits. It's wonderful. You won't taste it. And what's really cool about the sea vegetable kombu is that if you cook it long enough, it really falls apart and dissipates, and you don't even know it's in there. Now, I have found a really cool way. I can actually just do it in the bowl. A lot of times I do it in the cutting board, but get your kitchen scissors. These are scissors that I use, for the kitchen. And I can just cut the kombu with it. You can use your cutting board and your knife. That's fine. Might be a little easier though. Sea vegetables, because they grow in the ocean and everything, they tend to get a little slimy. And also too, because I put this in that broth over there, that broth had olive oil in it. So again, little tricky to do with your knife, but you could, it's no big deal. But if you could just cut it with the scissors into small pieces, I think this will work really good to put it back into the soup. Actually, maybe I'll put it in the bowl and just do this. Do like an action like this to just cut it up. Because the sea vegetable is from the ocean, like I said, it's a very, very slight salty taste. You won't even taste the saltiness really. But all sea vegetables are also bitter to the taste. But you won't, all the other flavors that we're putting in this soup, you won't taste that bitterness. It will be, you won't even realize it. But we are going to put this back into the soup pot. Get all those little pieces out of there, put into the soup pot. And right now, I'm bringing it to a boil, so I have it on a high temperature. After it gets to a boil, I'm going to reduce it to a low, which would be a simmer. I'm not going to put a lid on it. You don't need to put a lid on it for this recipe. But once I put it to a low, which would be a simmer, I'm going to let it simmer for about 10 minutes before I add the next vegetables. Now, I've already pre-chopped my vegetables before I started the video, so that it would be all good to go. But if you were making the soup at home, the 10 minutes that the lentils would be simmering here, you could work on chopping the asparagus and the carrots and the other vegetables that are going in here. We have asparagus, carrots, mushrooms. I have some minced kale and some minced parsley, but the greens will be added at the very end. All right, it's boiling. I can see it boiling right there. So now we're going to turn it down to a simmer. Here again. All right, so it's going to be about 10 minutes and then we'll be back to add the vegetables. Okay, so the lentils have been cooking for 10 minutes and not much to see here, just lentils simmering along. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to turn the heat back up, okay? And it came to a boil pretty quick because it's been simmering, but I'm going to add 2 cups of diced carrot. That's going to give a nice sweetness to the soup, right? I don't really need to stir it a lot. I just gently move the carrots so that the carrots would get in the hot broth. Now, the cooking technique that I teach in all of my cooking classes, and it's in all of my soup recipes, although a lot of people always ask me, why is it in there and everything? Well, I'm going to explain that right now. When you put a vegetable in the soup pot, you then wait for the water to come back up to a boil before you add the next vegetable. This seals in and locks in the individual flavor of each individual vegetable that you're cooking so that your end product is more flavorful. You can distinctly taste the carrots, distinctly taste the asparagus, distinctly taste the mushrooms. It just brings out the flavor. Now, if you just put everything in the soup pot, you just turn it on and you kind of just let it cook, it'll be a good soup, but it'll be kind of one-dimensional with flavors. This is just again, like a fancier way of making the soup, a more flavorful way, a more gourmet way of making the soup. And this is maybe why sometimes when people, eat my soup, they go, oh my God, your soup is just so much more flavorful. It's just, what did you do? This is the technique that I use. And now because you're watching this video, how to make 2 lentil asparagus soup, you're going to know that technique. I'm telling you, it may take a few more minutes, but it's definitely worth it. Okay. So now the water has come back up to a boil while I've been talking. So now we can add 1.5 cups of asparagus, the signature vegetable that's in the cookbook. I have cut it in 1/4-inch pieces, and that's going to go into the soup also. Again, I just gently move the asparagus so that the hot water hits it. I don't stir my soup pot at all until the very end when it's time to put the seasoning in there. Why? Well, that has to do with energy, okay? So the natural heat from the bottom of the pot is boiling the water and it's creating calming, natural heat, and that's imparting this energy into the soup pot. If I take my spoon and I'm constantly stirring, constantly stirring, constantly stirring, I am putting energy in there that's not calming. I want to use the word chaotic, but it's not as chaotic as some energy. It's not that bad, but you can see that if you don't disturb the soup pot, just let it boil and the vegetables kind of naturally mix anyways. It's just a way to create your soup in, again, energy, a more calming energy pot of soup. And everything is energy. You become the energy of the food that you eat. So why not create this beautiful, calming soup that would help. Okay, we have 4 garlic cloves going in there. Garlic cloves really isn't much, it's just in the middle. And then we have a cup and a half of chopped mushrooms. Now I chose organic white mushrooms, but you could choose uh, a shiitake or a portobello or a whatever your favorite is. I just chose the organic. And again, I just gently moved it so that the hot water could get to all the vegetables. It's already at a really high temperature, so I can see that it's boiling already. So we've achieved the, boiling before each vegetable. Now, you can just turn it down to a simmer and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Sometimes I do, if I put a lid on it, I never ever put the lid like that because that seals in everything and you run the risk of the becoming too hot and the water coming up and boiling over. So I usually leave the soup pot like cockeyed like this so that some of the steam can escape, yet the majority of the soup pot is going to cook a little quicker and the vegetables are going to get nice and soft. Okay. Um, just briefly here, although it's in the introduction of the amazing asparagus cookbook, some health benefits of asparagus. So traditional herbal medicine and everything has used asparagus for a long, long time for reproductive health, both male and female reproductive health. In fact, in particular, asparagus root has been known to be in herbal tinctures and things like that. So of course we're not eating the root, we're eating the beautiful green part, right? Vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, vitamin E, which is a natural antioxidant. All of those things are found in asparagus. Asparagus helps to dislodge and remove phlegm from your system too. So sometimes, you get asparagus can help with that. Now, asparagus is a signature spring vegetable. So it starts growing out of the ground in the springtime, right? And so what happens in the springtime? In the springtime, your body goes through a natural cleansing process. So a lot of the foods that are associated with the spring season do that naturally in your body. And the organs that we feed and nurture in the springtime are your liver, your gallbladder, and your nervous system. So asparagus is going to feed and nurture those organs, in particular your liver. Asparagus helps improve your liver enzyme, which protects you against the buildup of fat. So when you eat asparagus in the springtime, it really nurtures your liver. And I'm sure you've heard of fatty liver's disease, which nobody wants to get. But eating asparagus on a regular basis can help your liver protect yourself from the buildup of fat in your liver. Yeah, so that's Oriental medicine, the 5 transformations of energy, and eating foods according to the season. You see how that all ties into the health of your body. And of course, I incorporate the 5 transformations of energy in my cooking on a regular basis. In my counseling sessions, when I work one-on-one with anybody who is trying to overcome any type of dis-ease that might be happening in your body using food. This is what I do for a living. So contact me through macroval.com if you are interested in setting up a consultation or learning more about the 5 transformations of energy. And also for purchasing any of my 8 cookbooks, but especially the new amazing asparagus cookbook. I have written down, because I can't remember everything because the book is new. There are 72 amazing, unique, delicious recipes featuring asparagus. The cookbook is 131 pages long. It has an introduction, again, where I tell you that all the health benefits of asparagus. I go into more detail. And then there's also a glossary that has, all the different ingredients. If you're unfamiliar with something, you can look in the glossary to see what it is. Here are some of the wonderful recipes, some of my favorite, although when it comes to asparagus, they're all my favorite. I have tofu quiche with asparagus, asparagus brown rice nori rolls with tahini sauce, and in the nori rolls are fermented asparagus pickles. That recipe's in there too. I love these fermented asparagus pickles. We have green lentil asparagus escarole spring dish featuring the spring vegetable of escarole, which is a green. It's a bitter green, but it's really good for your spring season. A quinoa bok choy asparagus spring bowl with a tamari lemon sauce. So lemon is sour is the signature flavor of spring, which lemon is a really great way to get your sour. I have a chocolate paprika savory sauce that you serve over steamed asparagus. So it's a savory chocolate sauce. Basil, rutabaga, cabbage, and asparagus, featuring one of my all-time favorite seasonings. Basil, I love basil and asparagus together. And so then there's also savory asparagus corn muffins. So that you would serve with your dinner, like a muffin with your dinner, featuring cornmeal. Now, one of the best recipes in the cookbook, and I've had people tasting the recipes, is my asparagus guacamole. Everybody who's tasted it is blown away by this asparagus guacamole. One of my all-time favorites, cream of asparagus soup. That's in the cookbook. And then I mentioned I have two miso soups, one featuring quinoa and one featuring brown rice, both of which have asparagus in it. Let's see, salads. So in the salad section, I have a quinoa beet asparagus lettuce salad. I love beets. Brown rice asparagus pinto bean sauerkraut salad. So there's a few recipes in the cookbook featuring sauerkraut. Again, signature sour flavor. Let's see, there's a brown rice asparagus dulse walnut lettuce salad with a lemon dressing. So that features the sea vegetable dulse, another sea vegetable for you. And then I have a section in the Amazing Asparagus Cookbook that is labeled special. These recipes are so special. Asparagus veggie burgers. I made this recipe a few years ago. It's one of my favorite veggie burger recipes that I've ever created. Asparagus tacos. And with the asparagus tacos, you're going to get a vegan cheddar cheese sauce. There is I season the asparagus with taco seasoning, and then there's a carrot sauce, all served on a soft roll up for the taco. And then there's also a Mexican asparagus roll up where I season the asparagus to take on a Mexican flavoring. And that one has my cucumber salsa recipe. I created this recipe last year. One of my all-time favorite recipes I've ever created, cucumber salsa. So that's all included just in the special section. That's just one section of this book. And then I have to admit, this is probably my favorite section because the recipes are so unique, yet so absolutely delicious. Breakfasts and desserts. Asparagus pancakes with a sweet tofu cream, raspberry syrup, and a smoky tempeh mock bacon, all served together. The asparagus pancakes are now my favorite. The asparagus it adds a nice moisture content to your baked goods. There is asparagus muffins with blueberry jam in the middle. I literally am making this recipe every single week. Not only for, my regular customers that I cook for, I am eating these muffins. I love these muffins. Asparagus donuts. Yep, I made asparagus donuts. And everybody who I was having sample, I have friends that I have, hey, you want to sample this stuff for my new cookbook. Here's some donuts. And they were like, oh, these are so good. Yeah, they have asparagus in them. I can't even tell. It's just, they're moist, they're delicious, they're wonderful. Asparagus ice cream. Yep. Using aquafaba. If you have any of my other cookbooks, I have some aquafaba ice cream recipes in the dessert cookbook. Yeah, the dessert cookbook has the aquafaba recipes in it. And a pear asparagus pie with a pecan crust. And I have to tell you, my all-time favorite asparagus recipe I've ever created, asparagus cake with sweet potato frosting. It is one of my all-time favorite cake recipes ever. And if you're not a fan of asparagus, you might be hearing me read off all these recipes thinking, what? Asparagus cake? Trust me, it is absolutely delicious. Even people who claim that they don't like asparagus, they love the asparagus cake. Yeah. All right, well, I've been talking for a few minutes while the soup has been cooking, but it's not done yet. I'm sure it needs a few more minutes. You're supposed to cook it like this for about 15. I think I've been talking for maybe about 5 or 7 minutes. So I am going to go on another little break here while it finished cooking. And then when I come back, we've got kale and parsley and the seasonings to add to the soup. So I'll be right back. Okay, so now it's time to finish up the soup and season it. So it has been simmering for approximately 15 minutes since we added the carrots, the asparagus, the mushrooms, and the garlic. So I'm going to turn the heat off now. Okay. I did take a fork and I checked to make sure that the asparagus and the carrots were soft. So the soup's good. Now we're going to season it. All right. So first of all, I have a 1/4 cup of minced kale. So I'm going to put that in there. Kale does not take very long to cook, and especially when you have it minced up like that. So kale is super high in iron, calcium, fair amount of protein, fantastic for you. So I don't know, all my regular students and in some of my videos and everything, I talk about how to work with kale and how I always have minced kale either in my fridge or my freezer so that I can put it in my soup pots or my pots all the time. Now I have a 1/4 cup of minced parsley. I kind of like to use that as a garnish. More so if I put it in right now, it'll kind of wilt, which is fine. You can do that. But I'm going to put a little pinch on the bowl when I serve it to show you. Okay, I'm going to season it with a couple vinegars because vinegars are fermented, which means they're going to give us that signature sour flavor of springtime. So first I have the ume plum vinegar. This is a salty, sour, pungent vinegar. This is going to add a little bit of, salt to the soup. This is one of my favorite vinegars. I use this quite often. And then we have a brown rice vinegar. So this is a slightly sweet from the brown rice, sour, pungent vinegar. So we have sweet and salty vinegar, but with the signature sour flavor from the vinegars being fermented too. I have 1 teaspoon of sea salt going in there. And I have 1 teaspoon of dried thyme. If you wanted to use fresh thyme, you could, but I have dried. So now is when I actually take my spoon and I gently mix the soup together, because now is when I want all the seasonings to come together, all the flavors to come together, everything to mix. Okay, see how colorful that is? We got the beautiful orange carrots and we got the green asparagus and the mushrooms are kind of white. And then the underlying color, like I said, the red lentils, you don't even see the red lentils. You see the green lentils. You can see pieces of the green lentils. And of course, you can see some onion. You see the onion in there. Very nice. Okay, I'm going to get myself a bowl. We'll scoop up some of this delicious 2-lentil asparagus soup. Oh, there's a couple pieces There was a couple pieces, big pieces of kombu there. It's okay. Okay, and we're gonna put a little bit of our minced parsley as a garnish on top. I'll end up putting the rest of it in the soup later too, but here is our soup. A nice springtime soup. And so I want to thank you very much for watching the video. Greatly appreciate it. I'm going to have a lot of videos on my Patreon cooking channel. That's my subscription cooking channel. For a very small monthly fee, you get access to all kinds of cooking videos. So my intention is, because the asparagus cookbook is new, I'm going to put all of these videos that I'm creating right now with the asparagus recipes up on my Patreon page, so that my subscribers will get to be able to see these videos first. They'll get the opportunity to make all these delicious recipes. So make sure you subscribe to my Patreon cooking channel. Now, if you go to macroval.com, all the links are there on the homepage. There's a link that says Val's Patreon subscription cooking channel, and you click on that and it takes you right over there. Super easy to do. I got all these videos over there, all these cooking videos. And then to purchase the amazing asparagus cookbook, it's right on the website. Go to where it says cookbooks, click on it. You can get the new book. I hope you do get the new book. I'm very excited about it. Okay, this is hot, so I'm going to put the towel underneath it, but let's do a little sample of the taste. Oh, is that good? Oh, oh, the thyme, wonderful. And the seasonings of the ume vinegar and the brown rice vinegar, that's the key right there. That gives you the signature flavor of sour for springtime, which asparagus is our spring vegetable. So thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. I hope you get a chance to make this recipe, and I hope you get a chance to pick up the new amazing asparagus cookbook. And for now, remember, get in the kitchen and cook healthy.